Alright, a couple of things here before we start. I'm filming this video after I took the alternator out, and I wasn't able to film during it, so here's a couple pointers. If you're going to be doing this, it's going to be recommended, or at least I recommend, to have two people. If you're doing this by yourself, it might be really tricky, just because of the way you have to get the alternator out up through the top. Pay attention to how you take the alternator out, so it goes, so you can fit it in back the same way. It's extremely tight, and it's probably going to get stuck on some AC lines and radiator lines, so it's gonna take a while, and you're probably going to use a lot of swear words, but it's possible. Alright, so today we're changing the alternator for a 2001 Cadillac Deville. This should work for other models as well, as long as it's in the same spot. So first thing you're going to have to do, and also this is the way to do it without taking out the radiator or the AC, so we're going to be taking it out through the top. So first thing I did was I disconnected the intake and the computer box. I have seen other videos where they just flip this whole thing right over, but there were a couple screws in the sides where you actually had to take the box off. And you might not have to do this, but I did it anyways just to ease stuff up. So all you need is like a screwdriver, and that comes off. The box itself sits in there, and I just put the computer right here so I could access the fans. Next, what you have to do is there's a support bar that runs along here. There's 4 screws, 2 on each side and 2 over there. That'll lift up. You can set that aside. It's over there. Next, you have to take off the fans. These are the fans by themselves. And there's 2 screws, 1 on each side of the radiator, here and here. And then after you finagle it, you've got to push these out of the way. You can take this rubber hose and loop it up over the engine oil cap and behind here, so you get more room. After you reach down behind and disconnect the wires from the fans, you got to lift them up, and there might be 2 tabs on either side that stick out, and they might hit these rubber hoses, so you're going to have to like bend it properly. What I ended up doing, against my better judgment, was cut one of them off, because the left one looked like it was just sitting on the frame, not actually attached to anything, which allowed it to come up easier. Also, as another side note with your radiator, like I said, you don't have to disconnect any hoses, you're not going to lose any fluid, you don't have to mess with any of that. You just have to make sure these are pushed out of the way. These are AC lines and radiator hoses. Your radiator sits in these 2 holes, one on either side. So what you can actually do is just lift it straight up and pull it gently back as far as it'll go, and it should pop out a little. Same on this side. My right side didn't pop out really. Wasn't enough room for it to go because you've got this metal hose here. So then you can just literally pull it up and backwards and set it there. Now when you have to pull the fans out, this might get in the way. This is your hood latch. So what I did was I came underneath right to where it's held in right there. Where is it? Right there. There's those two empty holes. And took the screws out, and this just goes back and forth now. And I put a piece of foam there to keep it from scratching the car. So that's another side note as well. So after that, you're going to have to do your belt tensioner. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. You can see your belt tensioner here, and under the power steering, I'm sorry, the belt, under the power steering, you have your belt tensioner right there in the center of the shot. Now to get that loose, what you gotta do is come over top, and you can see the top down view of it now. You're gonna have to move the belt out of the way and stick a 1/2 inch ratchet in that square peg right there. Now once the ratchet's in on either side, I'm sorry, a wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench on either side. Come on, focus. Anyways, once you get that wrench in there, all you've got to do is put it in there and twist, or I'm sorry, push downward. That'll relieve the tension on the belt, and then the belt can loop off. Alright, quick update here. This is after the fact, but for the belt tensioner, I mentioned you stick a 1/2 inch ratchet down there in the square peg. However, I wasn't able to get enough leverage, and there isn't enough room, so I took my 1/2 inch breaker bar here with the square peg on the end of it. See if we can get that there. This was able to just slide right into there and then pull it forward to release the belt, to take the alternator out, and then to put it back in. make sure you do this before you loosen the bolts on the alternator. After that, you're going to come down here. I know my alternator is covered in oil, as most things are, on the bottom. So once you get your alternator, you're going to have a screw put in right here. Another one is going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this one on video, kind of in a tricky spot. You got our alternator wheel right there in the center of the shot, and then the other bolt's going to be in between those two wheels behind the belt. You'll be able to get a ratchet in there. They're all 15 millimeter. And then, to make your life easier, my car's not jacked up right now, but jack up your car. You're going to go way underneath to your alternator down here, so you can see. And then that's the hole where the other bolt's going to be. So once you're done with that, actually it might be best to take the bottom one out first. That way you can pull this out the top, and so on and so forth. Alright, something else you're going to have to do is there's going to be a screw or a nut on top of this brass, or I'm sorry, copper looking piece right here. That's going to be your lead for your electronics. So this rubber boot sits over it, so you'll have to peel the rubber boot back and unbolt that as well. Alright, also as another side note, after you get under, before you get under the car to take those screws out on the alternator, you've got to take off your shield, your big plastic shield. Now there are pins everywhere along this thing holding them in, but I found the best thing to do, this is what they look like. Let's try and get this over here. This is what they look like. Take needle nose pliers, and this actually pops out, so this will sit flush in there. Pop the top out, grab just the pin. The pin slides out after you got it in your pliers, and then this will be left in the bottom, and then you just gently pull this out. Don't try and pull it out at the same time, otherwise you'll completely break it and you'll be out pins.